While music can transcend geographic and linguistic barriers, it is not a universal language. And so when we're trying to ascribe this extra meaning, this emotional meaning to music, one of the most powerful things we can do as a composer is to draw from these kind of pre-existing associations. So I feel I have to be keenly aware of certain musical tropes that have been used historically or currently, and I have to find a way to add my own wrinkles so that it's familiar and communicates the meaning that I want it to, but still feels fresh and interesting. I think some of my interest in exploring multiple styles and combining styles really just comes from a genuine interest in lots of different types of music and the willingness to explore different styles of music even when I don't immediately like it. I learn how to engage with it and how to produce it authentically. So the most rewarding experience for me has been when performers have put an incredible amount of care into producing a polished musical product, and especially when they're able to kind of put into my music something that I never would have thought of that elevated it even further. And so I think of just recent collaborations with Elizabeth Grimpo, the pianist at Concordia, and the Concordia choirs there. Just really transcendent experiences listening to that music performed at such a high level and with such a unique interpretation. And so it just really goes back to this idea that I value music as a dialogue. I love to hear what other people are doing with my contribution and the contribution that they have to offer. My love for improvisation, I think, is directly tied to the value that I just spoke about, right? My love for improvisation is tied to my love for hearing other people's contribution. And so when I decide to include that element in music, I'm trying to carve out a space for that person to make their contribution. But I will try to do it in a way that ensures success or empowers them to be successful. My interest in jazz composition, he was tied directly into the fact that UNL has traditionally had such a strong jazz program. So many of the musicians that I look up to and respected were jazz musicians at the university, and that's what drew me to that particular style. Not necessarily because I was intrinsically motivated to that particular thing, but because that's what I was exposed to here in Lincoln and at the university. And it ended up becoming a core part of my voice and the foundation upon which everything else was built. Composers are always looking for a way to generate ideas. And so this just happens to be a way of doing it. And it's nice to kind of have a method that I can rely on. Is when I don't have musical ideas, I can go do this activity. I go talk to a person, learn about something, and then I make this association to this musical idea, and boom, instant composition. I think the biggest thing for me is, trying to keep things fresh and interesting for myself. And so the process ends up being largely the same, but the subject matter differs or expands. And so really I'm just trying to accumulate as much knowledge as possible so that I have a larger toolbox to draw from when the time comes. I knew that I wanted a teacher that was going to be able to handle both traditional classical music or even like thorny avant-garde stuff, but also vernacular styles or popular styles of music. I really wanted to negotiate both those sides of my artistic voice. And so there was a small, a short list of professors that were able to do that. And Greg Simon was one of them. He just happened to be here at the institution that I did my undergrad, but he arrived here shortly after I graduated and left. And so it worked out in my favor that I was able to come back to my institution and study with a different teacher who was able to do exactly what I needed him to do at that particular time in my development.